All right, today we're diving into a huge economic puzzle. We're talking about the engine that pretty much powers every corner of the Indian economy. But, and it's a big but, it often struggles to get the fuel it needs to really take off. Of course, I'm talking about micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs. So let me start by asking you a question that gets right to the heart of it. Can you think of a sector that employs a mind-boggling 26 crore people? I mean, that's practically the population of some entire countries. And yet, even with that incredible scale, it faces this one persistent, fundamental challenge. And yeah, you guessed it, it's the MSME sector. This number right here, 30.1%, that says it all. That's their share of India's gross value added, which is basically a huge chunk of all the economic value created in the country. They aren't just a small part of the economy, they are, quite literally, a foundational pillar. Okay, so first things first, let's really get a handle on the sheer scale of this sector. And getting the official definition right is super important because, that's what decides who gets access to all that vital government support. So what exactly makes a business an MSME? Well, the official definition, which is getting updated in 2025, uses what's called a composite criteria. It's a fancy way of saying they look at two things: how much is invested in the business and its annual sales. And what they've done is raise these limits by a lot. The idea here is actually pretty smart. They want to encourage businesses to grow bigger without that fear of suddenly losing their MSME status and all the benefits that come with it. And when you look at their overall impact, wow, it's just staggering. Think about this for a second. Over 90% of all enterprises in India are MSMEs. They drive about a third of our GDP, almost half of our exports, and get this, they employ around 60% of India's entire workforce. So yeah, calling them small businesses really doesn't do them justice. They are the bedrock of our economy, plain and simple. But, if they're that important, you'd think their path to growth would be pretty smooth. The reality, though, is a whole different story. So what's really holding them back? And that really is the central question we need to unpack, isn't it? With such a massive economic contribution, what are the key hurdles that are keeping this engine from firing on all cylinders? Well, survey data gives us a really clear answer. The number one challenge, the biggest headache for 22% of MSMEs, is getting access to formal credit. Sure, high competition and keeping up with technology are big deals too, but the lack of finance is the single biggest bottleneck. And here's something really important. This challenge isn't felt equally by everyone. For women entrepreneurs, getting credit is a much bigger hurdle. A full 26% say it's their top obstacle. Now, it's still a problem for their male counterparts, but it's cited less often. Understanding this disparity is a critical piece of the whole puzzle. This brings us straight to the core of the financial challenge. So let's dedicate this section to what we're calling the 30 trillion rupee question, this absolutely massive gap in credit for the MSME sector. Just take a moment to absorb that number. 30 lakh crore rupees. That's the estimated size of the credit gap. It's a figure so big it's almost hard to wrap your head around. And it represents a colossal amount of unmet potential for growth and job creation. So what does that term, addressable credit gap, actually mean? Well, simply put, it's the gap between how much credit MSMEs could formally and viably use and the amount they actually get from places like banks. So this isn't just a wish list. It's the real, serviceable demand that just isn't being met. And when you dig into this gap, you see that gender disparity pop up again, and it is stark. For women-owned MSMEs, nearly 35% of their credit needs go unmet. That is a significantly wider gap than the one faced by male-owned businesses, and it points to a real systemic barrier for female entrepreneurs. And it's not just about gender. Geography plays a huge role too. A rural MSME is far more likely to be starved for credit than one in a city. This 12 percentage point difference points directly to challenges in financial infrastructure and just how hard it is to get capital flowing beyond the big urban centers. So, the crucial question is why? Why does this happen? Well, the reasons are complex. A lot of these micro enterprises just don't have the formal paperwork. Others don't have the collateral or the long credit history the traditional banks demand. Then you add in limited financial literacy and the fact that many entrepreneurs don't even know about the government schemes that exist to help them, and you've basically got a perfect storm. So, how do we start to close this gap? Well, the government is very aware of these challenges and has been pushing a whole range of policies to try and turn the tide. Let's explore some of the key initiatives. A key part of the policy push has been evolving the very definition of an MSME. This timeline shows a really clear progression from separate, pretty rigid definitions back in 2006 to a unified and much more growth-friendly classification that's coming in 2025. This allows businesses to scale up without that fear of immediately losing crucial benefits. Then, there are several flagship schemes designed to tackle the credit problem head-on. Take the CGT-MSE, for instance. It provides guarantees for collateral-free loans. This directly addresses one of the biggest hurdles for new entrepreneurs. And alongside others like the Mudra and Stand Up India schemes, the policy focus is clearly on financial inclusion. And beyond traditional loans, some really innovative financial tools are emerging. Take TREDS, the Trade Receivables Discounting System. It's a platform where an MSME can essentially sell its invoices to financiers and get paid almost instantly, rather than waiting weeks or even months. This is a game changer because it directly attacks the cash flow crunch, a major pain point for so many small businesses. All right, we've covered a lot of ground. So let's distill all of this down to the most critical facts and figures. These are the essential takeaways you'll want to remember. Here it is, your revision checklist. First, know the key contributions, 30.1% of GVA and employing around 26 crore people. Second, access to credit is the #1 challenge. Third, that credit gap is a staggering 30 lakh crore. Fourth, don't forget the crucial disparities affecting women and rural enterprises. And finally, be clear on the policy focus on formalization and that new 2025 definition. You know, this quote from the SIDBI report just perfectly summarizes everything we've talked about. The MSME sector isn't just a part of the economy, it is the backbone, driving development all across the nation. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. As India sets its sights on becoming a developed nation by 2047, you have to wonder, will unlocking the full potential of its millions of micro, small, and medium enterprises be the final key to achieving that huge economic ambition? It might not just be an option. It may very well be the most important piece of the puzzle.